What is up, beautiful people? It's Wolfbrother Mythos from the channel Frost and Fist, and welcome to tonight's stream. Tonight it's going to be it's going to be a painting stream. I've been on the road all week. I am balls tired. I have had a really long week. I've had some adventures this week, and I'm going to be telling you guys about. But overall, you know, it's definitely, I couldn't wait to get back here tonight and hang with you guys, and I think I'm going to relax by doing some painting with you guys. It is just me at the moment. Brother Freak had to take care of something personal, but he will be, try not to smack the camera, he will be joining us before the end of the night. I'm not quite sure how we're going to arrange that. I'm having a few software problems tonight, but we will get him in on the chat at some point. And he may even have some good news when he comes back. I don't know. I didn't get a whole lot of details, but you know, something big has come up in his personal life. So hope it all goes well for him. And until then, I'm going to be hanging with you lovely, lovely people and doing some painting. Hope you're all doing well. Hobby Corner Kev says, whoops. Now I know I've stayed up too late. Better get to sleep. Man, rest well, brother. Have a great sleep and enjoy your weekend, my brother. Flight of the Phoenix, my favorite Phoenix. Hello, fam. Hello yourself. Good to see you. Guys, I've had so many. It's just been a ridiculous flux of luck this week. Right now, I'm going to sip on my Yorkshire biscuit tea, my cool color changing Mass Effect mug. When it's cold, it's like stone black. When it heats up, though, you got the Paragon and the Renegade on different sides. It's so cool. This Yorkshire biscuit tea is awesome, too. So, how are you guys? How you been? How was your week? Brother Meek's in the chat. Trying to caffeinate. I mentioned to some of my friends earlier tonight that I got up at 3 this morning with the time conversions and whatnot, so that way I could catch my flight home today. So I'm not going to be doing any after show hobby and late night tonight. There won't be any after party with us all hobbying and hanging out. At least not hosted by me, because I got to get my butt to bed. Been up since 3 a.m. and wow. I know a lot of you guys can handle the all-nighters. That's too much for me. Too much for me. I'm a lightweight, guys. I'm a lightweight. Yorkshire biscuit-flavored Yorkshire tea. Sexy git. All right, take care, brother. Have a great weekend, man. So, I've got these Ludas that I actually took with me on my trip and got a minimal amount done. I did basically the leather pouches and the leather boots and the leather armbands, and that's really all I got done, because you're gonna laugh. So I took my Gracier with me, and the way I do, of course, I use the Gorgoncha fur contrast as my leather. I just think it's a good looking leather color. And as I got to my last pouch to do, I'm not sure which one of these four it was, but as I got to my last pouch to do with the Gracier, Essex boys, good morning and wow, good to see you, my brother. So I had the Gracie in my bag, and anytime I fly, you know, you're allowed, like in the US TSA, they give you 1 quart of a bag of liquids you can take, and it's supposed to be for your toiletries, your toothpaste, your body wash, your shampoo, all that good stuff. I always just fill mine to the brim with paints, and then typically I'll buy like little travel size body wash, shampoo, and all that good stuff while I'm there that I just plan on getting rid of at the end of my stay, because I always my bag of liquids is always just chock full of paint. Well, while I was painting, I had 2 paint mishaps. I have this terrible habit, and I've had it for as long as I can remember painting. Okay, so typically instead of using a wet palette, what I like to do is I like to get my paint pots, and then I'll add in Vallejo's liquid flow improver, and I typically will just pour that straight into the pot, shake it all about, you know, with a couple of beads in there, the Army Painter metal paint beads, and, you know, I just use it right out of the pot because I've pre-thinned the entire pot, which normally works out okay, but sometimes I over-thin it and then it's just a mess. But anyways, I had thinned the pot down, and this terrible habit, I've spilled so much paint this way over the last 5 years. I have pretty bad ADD, guys. And so sometimes I get so hyper-focused, I forget on other things I'm supposed to be paying attention to. And what happens sometimes is I will be holding the model with 2 fingers. I've got my pot open, dipping into the pot, paint the model, dipping into the pot, paint the model, dipping into the pot, paint the model. But then as I start trying to get all these crazy angles, I start moving my hand and not realizing it. And sometimes what happens, and I say sometimes because this has happened at least 5 times now in the last 5 years, is I will just stop paying attention to the part of the hand that's holding the pot, and I'll turn my miniature over trying to get at what some of those weird angles we paint, and spills right out of the pot. In this case, it got on my jeans, my Abercrombie jeans. I got on my one of my favorite purple button-up shirts. It was a mess. And I was in the middle of the airport. I had no way to clean it or change it. It was crazy. So, yeah. Sucks getting old. Kami makes fun of me when I start getting ready for bed at 9 p.m. Yeah, it's oh, man. I'm still terrible. I still usually go to bed around midnight, even on a school night, which I shouldn't, but, you know. But yeah, it definitely, you need more and more sleep as time goes by, right? So yeah, your goober wolf brother spills the paint, just multitasking. I'm a terrible multitasker anyways, let's be honest. But then also, going back to my quart bag, after that incident, I guess where I had spilt it on myself, some of the paint built up in the rim, so I could closed it back up during the emergency, cleaned it up as best as I could. But I guess that paint that was all in the rim really built up. So when I stuck it back in my quart bag, and you know, sometimes your bags at the airport don't always get the most gentle treatment, right? I get back to my hotel room, the gray sear had exploded all over my bag of paints. So, and even the bag had burst a little bit, but the bag could contain most of the mess. I've got white splotches like on the inside and the outside of my backpack now. So anyways, that kind of put a dampener on painting minis this trip. Normally I get more accomplished during my trips, but after 2 back-to-back paint explosions, I decided to give the airport painting a rest for this trip. Were they messing with your sacks again? Yeah, that's how they do checks, right? They pat down one side, back up, shift over, pat down the other side, and back up. That's how they're supposed to check you, right? I've been holding something with 2 fingers and dipping it into a pot. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So, yeah, that was my painting adventures. My travel adventures have been crazy, but you know, before I crack on to the travel adventures, I think I need to determine what I need to do next with these models. You know what? While I was doing my leathers, I got some leather color on some of these skulls, so I think I'm going to go back over with some Wraithbone and just clean up those skulls real quick. It's interesting because I'm really just cleaning them up to dirty them back down again with some oil washes, but I just don't want any obvious overspill from that leather color. So, I'm going to tell you about my week and how travel went for me. So this week, I took a flight to New York, and that was interesting. So from Texas, it seemed like all the flights in this area all go to New York from Charlotte. So, like, you know, if you're coming from Dallas, you're coming from the Houston area, it seemed like generally all flights that are going to New York usually require some kind of stop in the Charlotte area. There's a couple of direct flights, but they tend to be on the camera, Mythos, on the camera. But they tend to be the slightly more expensive options. Well, maybe not so slightly. But anyways, that's okay. I like the Charlotte airport. You know, I before I moved to Texas, you know, I spent a good part of my teenage years growing up in the Charlotte area. And so I was okay with that. You know, it's like not quite a hometown, but you know, it's part of my youth. Well, when I got to Charlotte, well, first of all, getting to Charlotte itself was a nightmare. So to leave Houston to go to Charlotte, I got to the airport at around 7 in the morning. And then there were just non-stop flight delays all day. They pushed it back 1 hour, 2 hours at a time. And yeah, by the time all those flight delays resolved, we pulled into Charlotte. Like I said, I got there 7 in the morning. We pulled into Charlotte at just after 9 p.m. So that was like 14 hours, you know, trying to get from just Houston to Charlotte. Well, of course, by then, I had missed all the connecting flights to New York that night. So, thankfully, you know, oh, and they tried to put it on weather so that way they didn't have to pay for my hotel room or meals or anything. But thankfully, one of the helpful flight attendants I had spoken to earlier in the evening, you know, had just said when I asked what was the reason for the delays, they said, nothing to worry about, hun. There's just a small piece of the airplane that they need to fix. We should be back up and running again soon. I said, okay. And I didn't think anything else of it. But when they said, well, for weather cancellations, you know, we can't control the weather. You're on your own, basically, for getting a hotel room. But if it were mechanical or something we could take responsibility for. So I was like, wait a minute. A helpful lady earlier in the day told me about just a little mechanical piece that needed to be fixed. So she went back and looked in the notes in the system, verified what I had told her, and thankfully they at least got me a room for the night. So, but they said, we'll put you on the next flight that we have available for New York. Turns out, this is at 9 o'clock at night. The earliest flight we can put you on is at 8:30 tomorrow night. God dang it. So, and of course the hotel checks you out at 11. So basically I was waiting at the airport because I didn't have any wheels, any transportation of my own, because I was stuck in a city that I wasn't supposed to be in. So, so basically I was stuck again at the airport for the following day. So that's 2 days in a row now, from 11 in the morning to 8:30 in the evening when my second flight went to New York. I've only been to Texas once in my life and only saw the Dallas airport. The Dallas airport's pretty nice. So yeah, that was up to almost 2 full days just stuck in an airport. And of course, you know, that ate into the business part that was planned out for the trip. So, you know, all of a sudden I had like just the one day, Thursday, to be able to meet with clients, with the branches from the district, you know, and actually get the work part done. And I would have liked to have gone and met more of my security officers and stuff like that and actually toured the property. But, you know, because my time was so limited there, I didn't get the opportunity. You know, I was supposed to be able to take 1 full day at the site and 1 full day at the office, but unfortunately that didn't happen. The next thing I want to bring up, so that was the flight part. The flight part was interesting. The next thing that I thought was really interesting, and I almost wish Wybird was awake for this, because Wybird is a New Yorker. Okay, so a lot of people, when they hear Texas, the first thing they think about is like cowboys and horses. And a lot of people have the misconception that here in Texas, you know, just horses are everywhere, and some people take horses into work and stuff like that. And while that would be cool, it's definitely not the case, right? Well, when a lot of people on this side of the country hear about New York and the New York City area, you know, they think about crime. And Ashley, good to see you, my friend. And anyways, so I arrive just after midnight in New York, and I go from there. You know, I go from the city to White Plains, which is you know, it's about 25 minutes north of the city. It's like a little suburb, kind of. Well, not really a suburb, but it's another city-sized area. But it's only like 30 minutes away. They're 20 minutes away, and you know, I basically didn't see anything. I was like, got my car, and went straight to the hotel. Didn't see anything. Got my room. I didn't even eat, guys. You know, I had last eaten at like 3 in the afternoon, and I was so tired by that point, I didn't even have dinner. I raided the vending machine, had a snack, you know, of like popcorn and beef jerky out of the vending machine, and went to, you know, took a shower, went to sleep. So I wake up and I get ready for my meetings and stuff the next day, and I kid you not, I left to go to the meeting 15 minutes out of my hotel room. This is my first impression of New York. On my way to the site, I passed through a neighborhood that's got no less than 20 police cars out and a SWAT van. And there is a fully armored SWAT guy who gets out of the back of the van with one of those big two-handed, you know, battering rams to breach your door with. And I was like, what is going? And then his buddy next to him, you know, with a pump action shotgun. And I was like, what is going on here? And cool thing about working security is I happen to know, you know, the manager that was doing security for that building. So I called him up and I was like, what is going on here? And apparently it's a hostage situation. So I'm 15 minutes basically into my first experience of New York and come across a hostage situation, you know, where police were like diverting traffic away from, had closed down the roads and stuff like that. Craziness. I'm like, this only reinforces the stereotype. And then I sent Freak a picture last night that, you know, I had just gone across the street from my hotel to eat dinner at this little diner. Because I was like, a New York diner, I got to try that. Which this was not the diner. This was the worst diner experience of my life. It was just horrible food. But I get back into my car, and this parking lot at this hotel was kind of crazy. It just had like a thin, through area for you to unload your car, and they had a bigger parking lot like over to the side in the back where you could have like a whole parking garage and stuff like that. But you had to go through the pull-through area. That's kind of like a one-way insecurity kind of setup to get there. Well, I couldn't get to my hotel room because a police car and ambulance with their sirens on, sirens, lights, the whole deal, were parked in front of the hotel entrance for like 30 minutes. So I was just sitting in the car, just listening to music basically. Actually, music came after I finished the battle report. I did watch a really, really cool battle report from Twisted Dice. That was really cool. You can go check that out now. It's Necrons versus Deathwatch, you know, with their little 9th edition tournament, mini tournament that they're doing. I would definitely recommend checking that out on Twisted Dice. But yeah, so I had to sit there and just kind of like finish my battle report, jam out some music, because these lights and sirens were just parked in front of the hotel. I'm like, once again, this is my taste of New York. It's reinforcing the stereotype, guys. I've only ever flown over Texas, as I had a layover in Nolens from Arizona to Wisconsin. Okay, that's interesting. So you had to go south before you could go north. Phoenix, if you want to grab one of these cups for Kami, I think it was only like $20 on the BioWare website. They're pretty cool. I got one for Dragon Age Inquisition too, because Dragon Age is one of my favorite. Dragon Age, Mass Effect, both some of my favorite franchises. Alright, so that is the Wraith bone down on all the skulls there. I think next I need to paint my pants gray. I'm going to go with Dawnstone. That's what I usually do with my Goths. So yeah, guys, it was an interesting trip. What about you guys? You guys ever took a trip somewhere that just reinforced your stereotypes of an area? My favorite travel was from Milwaukee to Cincinnati, Ohio to Los Angeles, back an hour to get ahead 3. Yeah, detours like that always drive me crazy. At least having to go to Charlotte to go to New York, you know, at least kind of makes sense, you know, it's kind of on the path, you know. But it's all about those airport hubs. Anybody ever had any of National Lampoon's kind of travel plans where things just really went wrong? Be interested to hear about those. In general, my travel plans have usually gone pretty well. But that's because usually I don't allow myself to be the one to plan them. My lovely Lily is our group coordinator for a lot of our group travels. She hates it. But she's, I mean, like, just the most organized and responsible out of all of us. So she tends to be the group coordinator for these kind of events. I've often volunteered to take the stress off of her. But you know, she toughs it out. It's stressful for her because trying to organize our group, including myself. I'm not throwing shade at any of my brothers or sisters, but trying to organize our group is definitely like herding cats. Now your Lampoon's visits are like every day being called a truck driver. See, this is why I like chatting with you, though. It always gives you a story. Gives you lots of interesting things to talk about. You know, these Ludas for me, these scrap gunners, which are going to serve as my Ludas, I was unsure about my paint job on them before, but as I get more and more of it painted up and see it start to come together, I'm starting to like them a little more. Definitely lots of cleanup, though. Definitely lots of cleanup. Same on the organization, especially if the trip involves Disney. I could have our fast passes set up for the week. I would have it done. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, Lily, my lovely Lily. I'm so glad she puts up with this, because I mean, we can be like herding cats, but also like I've gotten better about it. I used to not be the best about checking my phone or looking at group responses and stuff like that. But I mean, and it was even worse because, you know, she's usually in like the living room, you know, 3 feet from me, and she's like, "Will you answer the group text so that way people can know how to organize this next thing we're doing?" Oh, my bad. Oh man, she's got such a lazy husband, guys. Lazy husband. I've gotten better about it. I check my phone a lot more regularly now. Ever since doing YouTube, actually, really. So, doing YouTube, it's funny. You know, one of the ways I started networking with my fellow YouTubers is Facebook. And so doing YouTube got me more into social media via like Facebook, and then after that, Instagram. And so then I just, you know, naturally being on the phone more, started getting better at like being active in the WhatsApp group, and now I'm doing Discord, and so I'm a lot more active and responsive when people try and message me now than I used to be. And it all came from just starting YouTube. If you've ever seen either of mine and Freak's I Am a Wargamer videos, Brother Archer, what up, my ninja brother? You know, they always say, well, what advice would you give other YouTubers? And of course, not that my advice means a whole heck of a lot, because we're still a small-time channel. But, you know, we're a small-time channel, but I think what I love the most about our channel is, you know, we've got good connections, good interaction. You know, I feel like we've got a good community. It's not just plug and play, you know. Just putting up videos to watch. Like, I feel like I know a good chunk of my viewers. You know, I'm friends with a good chunk of my viewers, which I really appreciate. So, anyways, my thing I always say to people when they ask about, thank you very much, my brother. Good to see you, Weather Pig, my man. So I always say to people when they ask about starting a YouTube channel, what advice would you give a YouTuber? For me, and of course it really depends on what your goal is, but just because of my satisfaction of what I get out of the hobby and the YouTube process, I always say build relationships. You know, don't just throw up videos and hope somebody watches them, you know. Comment on other people's videos, get to know the people that are in your community, you know, build back and forth banter. You know, definitely don't be the guy that just shows up and drops links, never talks to anyone, which I know we can all get busy and be guilty of sometimes, but you know, be more than the links, right? Be more than the links you drop. You know, build relationships with these people, because they're all cool people. They're all definitely worthy of our time. And yeah, I think I've made some really excellent friends in this community in the time that I've been doing YouTube. I was about to say, I've seen you print some cool stuff, my man. It's funny, like, work hasn't been physically brutal for me. Of course, you know, I'm a manager, a number cruncher, so very seldom is the work physically brutal for me, unless like I have to, you know, get out and train somebody on sites in a hot, humid, you know, shipyard or something like that. Very seldom though is the work physically strenuous for me. But man, I've definitely had a heck of a week, headache and stress wise for sure. Oh man, all 8 p.m. days. Yeah, I can understand why printing's the only thing you've been able to get in hobby wise for sure. But hey, that's a little more overtime. Helps you feed the addiction a little more, right? That's the way I always look at overtime. Feed the addiction. Yeah, I got in the car today after getting off the plane, and my car was in the shade, and it was 99 degrees. And I was like, what? Okay, I dropped that mini, and I felt my brush hit something. I'm like, what did I just make a stray mark on? Please don't let it be the face. It was just the base of the rim right here. You know, it's definitely not one of my paint jobs if I don't drop the model at least once. IDICBeer sometimes calls me Butterfingers Mythos. Because I have dropped so many models and scuffed so many of my paint jobs. Broken some of my models, particularly some of the resin ones. So I know this Dawnstone here is a little bit of a really bright white, a little too clean looking for like the linen white of this guy's pants. But that's okay, because a lot of this, like the beaten and worn metal, the skulls here, and the pants are all going to get oil wash. And there are lots of videos out there on how to easily mix and work your own oil paints. But if you just want to dip your toe into the oil wash game, this Mr. Weathering, this is the multi-black. They do a multi-black and a multi-brown and a multi-gray, and it is like perfectly mixed. It's got, the formula is great. It really sinks into those nooks and crannies really well, and I think this is just the best way if you just, you know, are a beginner, kind of nervous at what to do with oil washes. This is a really great entry point here. I mean, I still mix up sometimes, but honestly, this does such a good job. I almost never bother to mix my own black oil wash. And you can kind of see here on the guns, you know, the effect it has on some of my beaten orc metal. So I need to do the boots, because for some reason when I weathered up the guns, I didn't think about the boots. So I still need to do the metal on the boots, but it's coming along. So I have a game with the Freakaliciousness out next week. And I've already got my list built. Because if you update your battle scribe before you get on the plane and then you put your phone on airplane mode, I don't know why, but battle scribe is one of those things that I think it's fun to make lists when you know you're on the plane and you need something to do. Just list building. So he said, I don't know, let's do either a 15 or a 1700 point game. And so I said, all right. I said, you got a preference? And he said, nope. So I went ahead and built one for both. I think I'm going to prefer the 1700. But yeah, I think either way, I'm happy. And the list is honestly mostly the same. The only difference is that in the 1700 point list, I've got a Pain Boy. Nice, nice. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. So, yeah, so the only difference is on my 1700 point list, I added in a Pain Boy to escort out my Mega Knobs. And my 2 Def-Coptas. I've got 2 more that I can build in paint. But yeah, my 2 Def-Coptas. So that way, they're just really, really good at capturing objectives. Until somebody looks at them and starts shooting at them, because they do crumple like paper. But what's interesting is that in the almost every game I've used them so far, there's almost always been a more important threat for my opponent to need to focus, and so they've been able to just kind of sit on the back objectives, fire their rockets that have been almost guaranteed to miss every single time. But since I'm just using them to camp objectives, it's really like any damage they do is a bonus rather than expected. And that is something that I've had to learn to get used to, because coming from a Space Marine army, or a series of Space Marine armies and AdMech army, you know, it's like I'm used to everything that I put in my list, even if they are objective campers. I'm used to them all being able to do some damage, you know. And you just can't do that with everything in the orcs unless you build for it. And since I don't build for shooting, you know, Def-Coptas are just not an amazing damage source for me right now. But that's fine. Like I said, I don't play them for damage. Any damage that they do manage to shell out is just always a bonus for me. So, anyways, they're great objective campers, so I was excited that I got to fit them into my 1700 point list. It's funny because when I first played them, I was like, oh man, I tried a game shooting with them. I tried a game being able to get their like spinner blades into combat, and I was like, man, I can't get these things to do anything. And then I don't know, just that third game I played with them, something clicked in my head, and I just had them kind of hang back, you know, out of line of sight at first to avoid opening volleys of fire, and then parked my Def-Coptas on objectives and just had them kind of sit there, usually after engaging with my other stuff like commandos and stuff like that, kind of tie some stuff up or take the attention away, and then just kind of zoom my Def-Coptas out of cover to just sit on objectives and camp them for a little while. And then what else did I do? I think I may have put in a Spanner Boy. Let's take a look. Weather Pig did a test battle report yesterday. Seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. That's awesome. Man, as soon as you put that out, man, I will definitely be sharing it, because I definitely am looking forward to seeing you do some battle reports. You know, I'm already a big fan of, you know, the charisma you bring to the table and your sense of humor, and I think any banter that you have in battle reports is really going to shine. Plus, we've all seen your camera work. We all know that your quality is stellar. So looking forward to your battle reports, man. And I think those are all going to be on a separate channel, yeah? So definitely keep a lookout for that, and we'll be sharing that around. Feel free to drop in the name of the channel you do your battle reports on too, my man, and I may even look for the link. I know I subbed to it, but I can't remember the name right offhand. Alright, so taking one, I'm trying to, I know I'm spending a lot of command points before the game even starts here. So we're doing the 1500 point game. You guys know you start with 12 command points. So I'm taking a big mech in mega armor, giving him the cleverest boss and to kill a claw. And I'm taking a war boss, that amazingly painted up war boss that Freak gave me for Christmas. And he is going to be the biggest boss with the lucky stick and might is right. And then interestingly, because the war boss he gave me is just a guy who's got a massive hammer, right? So I gave him the lucky stick. And, he looks more like a Warcraft orc, just carrying around a massive hammer. So I gave him what I thought would be kind of cool, a combi Scorcher, and I was just going to use the Scorcher profile and have him breathing fire, because I think that would be cool. So got a badass big mech, and in that mega armor he's going to be kind of a mini war boss in mega armor. Got the war boss himself with the big stick. They're going to be riding together in the Bonebreaker, by the way, so that lucky stick will buff the big mech as well as the war boss. And the big mech in mega armor is also going to have the custom force field, which is going to protect the boss. It's going to protect the Bonebreaker itself until everybody gets out. So this party wagon's really going to be a party. Camera work does seem like the hardest part. And then I've got my war boss and war bike. So basically, kind of what happened here is I picked the 3 HQs that I've painted up recently. Well, 2 of them that I painted up recently, and then one that I got for Christmas I haven't had a chance to use yet. And I threw them all in the same list. Do I feel like I need both a war boss and a war boss on bike? I mean, they kind of do the similar, the similar stuff. But they're going to be good beat sticks to throw down on the field. And B, I just want to use them because they're newly painted up, right? Which probably means they're going to die first. But then again, I've got so much newly painted stuff in this list, unless I just lose everything turn 1. Can't kill everything that's newly painted. I'm going to go ahead and knock on wood for that. Alright, so my troops choice. So I've got 1 boys squad. That's going to be 10 boys. And a knob with the power claw. And 1 rocket launcher. And of course I'll be using my newly painted rocket yeeting boy. So that's just going to be a squad of 10, basic, pretty basic. And they're just going to be kind of, I might have them run up the field, take an objective. I might put them outflank, strategic reserves. I don't know yet. Because 10 are going to die pretty quickly. I've got another squad, though, with 16 boys. Another rocket boy, which is going to be my little guy with a rocket. So, this is a goth army. I don't actually expect these rockets to hit anything, but they're newly painted and they got to go in the army. There's going to be 16 regular boys, another boss knob with the power claw, and they're going to ride in the battle wagon with... I'm sorry, the 10. The 10 are going to ride in the battle wagon with the 2 characters. The big squad of 20 are going to be the ones marching up the field. Had that backwards for a second. And then of course 10 Gretchen, because the 10 Gretchen are going to be fodder for my Ludas here that I'm working on. They'll be freshly painted up. I do plan on having them finished by next Saturday. So Ludas, and then I'm going to have a squad of 3 Death Dreads, giving them all sparkly bits so they all hit on 4s. This seems unnecessary, and they're going to get blown up so quickly. But I've got one with the Death Tread by the Pale Orc with 4 custom Mega Blasters, 1 with 2 claws and 2 Mega Blasters, 1 with 2 claws and 2 rocket launches. And they're just going to be shooting stuff and probably missing. Well, they got sparkly bits, so they're hitting on 4s. They might actually do some damage. But we'll see how that goes. A Trek with the Wrecking Ball. I've never used the Wrecking Ball, even though I painted it up and put it on the truck. My 5 Mega Knobs are going to be inside that. And they're going to have a Pain Boy with them. And yeah, that is... oh, and of course, my party bus, the Bone Breaker. So, yeah, I'm looking forward. It seems like a lot of stuff that I'm just really looking forward to trying out. Do I expect all of it to be successful? Not at all. But I think it'll be interesting. And who knows? You know, maybe I'll roll a few lucky hits with some of those custom Mega Blasters. So what's different in my 1700 point list? The Pain Boy. Actually, the Pain Boy is not in my 1500 point list. The Pain Boy got added. The 2 Death Copters got added. And that's it for 200 points. I think I may have done a couple other like gamey things, like, you know, where I had a few extra points, fit in a couple more, you know, big shooters on the battle wagon or whatever. But other than that, yeah. So it's just an opportunity for me to use all my newly painted stuff. So it does mean Gazgul's going to have to sit out of this battle. But yeah, I just wanted to try out the new HQs I haven't tried yet. All right. So just got a little bit more to touch up with this black here. And then I think that first layer of gray should be done on the pants, so I can go back to my 2 thin coats on the pants. Here I'm just reinforcing some of this black where the overspray with the green skin got a little out of control. Yeah, camera work on battle reports is definitely the hardest part. And that's why, you know, some of the really, and not that I'm saying by any means that anyone else needs to do this, you know, but just as part of what they specialize in, part of what they do. That's why channels like Twisted Dice, you know, spend tons of money on, like, you know, really good cameras, really good rigs and setups, you know, for some of their battle reports. You know, I know Darren over at Twisted Dice has gone as far as like installing track systems for the camera above his table and whatnot, you know, so that way they can get smooth overhead shots. By the way, they've been doing some stellar editing over at Twisted Dice lately. You know, like one thing they've taken to doing that I really like I mentioned, those overhead shots that really let you see the whole battle. They do some really cool editing, like putting colored target markers over the objectives every turn to let you know who controls what objective on the board. So even though you're seeing the battle go from like dice roll to dice roll for like each unit and character across the board, you're also kind of getting like the bigger picture when they zoom out, show you the overhead. And sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you guys, when a lot of channels do the overhead, you know, it's hard to identify unless they're playing like a really brightly colored army like Harlequins or, you know, Blood Angels or whatever. It's sometimes hard to see where the units are on the table against the terrain when they go out and do that zoomed out overhead shot. Not Twisted Dice specifically, just a lot of channels. But like the way Darren edits in hey, you know, those colored target markers. This territory is owned by Necrons. This is owned by Admech, or this is owned by Orcs, or whatever. Really kind of gives you a better impression of what the big picture of the battle looks like. I'm hoping my brass lasses will stand out. I hope so too. They're a good looking color scheme. That brass and blue just looks so good, and I'm definitely thinking they'll stand out nicely on the tabletop. And of course, admittedly, you know, I know some people, they're not looking for that, you know, standout factor. You know, they want their army to look, you know, grim, and a lot of times, you know, some of the grim dark look will be nice and weathered and kind of blend into the landscape a little bit on purpose, you know, to show that they've been through the muck and the dirt and the dust. And so, you know, if that's the aesthetic they're going for, that's awesome, you know. I have a colorful comic booky desired look in my armies, you know, but that doesn't mean I can't appreciate awesomeness in other art styles. I sound like I'm going, yes, I know my painting is a work of art. That's far from the point. Far from the point. You know, I think of myself as a mediocre painter most of the time, but I do feel like I've come a long way from where I used to be. And something that really helped my confidence level as I was learning to paint better was the idea to try and nail one thing whenever you do a new paint job. You know, try and nail one thing. What do I really want to look good? Because it can be a lot of pressure trying to do your best on every part of the model, especially if you don't have a lot of confidence. But if you think to yourself, man, I really want to nail this. In this case, when I started out with Orcs, I really want to nail this green skin tone. You know, I worked and worked and worked until I found a recipe that I liked. And to be honest with you, I don't feel like in general my Orcs look that great, but I love the pop that the skin gives them. It really offsets kind of the dark goth skin color, or I mean uniform color. And so I'm like, I just want to nail that one thing. Okay, skin tone. But then after a while, I'm like, okay, I've got the skin tone. Okay, so that's the next thing I want to do. I want to, I think the first time I started doing the checkerboard marks was on Def Coptas and then the Def Dreads. I'm like, okay, so what's the one thing I want to nail this project? I want to nail the checkerboard effect. And I didn't for a lot of them. I look at my Def Copter number 1 and Def Copter number 2, and just one of them looks way better than the other one. But, you know, it's all good. It's all part of the process. And then I started, you know, even though I didn't like how the second one came out, like, oh, I'm making negative progress here. I didn't let that keep me down. So I started doing it on the Def Dreads. And then I've got 4 Def Dreads painted up now, which is kind of ridiculous. And I've done checkerboards on, I think, all of them. And I got better with each one. And now I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on that. Not that I'm amazing or anything. They definitely don't come out even. They look orky enough, but they definitely don't come out looking like professional checkerboard. But I don't think that's the point with Orcs. So I'm comfortable with them now. And then I felt like I could start doing it on things like the faceplate of my big boss, Gazgul. You know. That's always been kind of my thing. When I first started doing the airbrush, you know, I was like, what do I really want to nail? Well, first it was Zenithal highlighting. And so At first it was zenithal undercoating, and then I felt like I did that until I felt like I could do that. And I could see results with that right off the bat with, like, I was doing Loyal Night Lords at the time. And people were like, man, your Night Lords have a pop that mine don't. You know, other newer painters at the game store. And I explained the zenithal undercoating I was doing. And they all went and tried it, and that felt good. Of course, I was like, go watch this video from Uncle Adam, because Uncle Adam's where I learned it. So anyways, I did that until I felt like I nailed it. And then the next thing I started doing with the airbrush is I wanted to learn to do power sword effects. By the way, my first power sword effects were not good at all. But, you know, that's, again, just that same mentality of, you know, picking one thing and trying to nail that one thing. Eventually, that led me to my policy of, you know, I try and make mediocre paint jobs look stellar when I'm by adding, like, really dynamic bases to them. That became kind of my focal point for a while, is, okay, I just want to nail this base. All right, the pants are colored in, guys. I think we're getting there slowly. Before I do any weathering, though, or before I do any more weathering, you can tell, like, some of the metal plates have already had, like, you know, rust and stuff added to them. Some wear and tear and scratches on the golds. I think before I do any oil weathering, though, I think I'm going to go ahead and put down my base texture. So this is what I'm working on tonight, guys. Any hobby projects you guys got going on tonight? Anybody painting along with me? Because I definitely feel like hobby sessions tend to go better with a friend. I really do. Here's my completed guy, by the way. So, whoop. So this will be kind of what I'm going for. Once, you know, I finished the weathering, the washes, the heat bloom. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else is easier or necessary? I mean, trying to make it easier is definitely a thing that one could focus on. I always try and think of what's the one thing I can do this go around to really nail, as in something that is oh, it's a quote by Gary Keller. Okay. Gary Keller. Interesting. I assume that sounds like a self-help kind of book. You know what? I'm going to take this back a step one mo again. I think instead of putting I am definitely going to do the texture before I do my oils. But before all that, I think what I want to do next is the heat bloom. So, you guys know that I love doing my heat bloom with the airbrush, but I have had a few people ask me, how do I do the airbrush, or how do I do this heat bloom effect without an airbrush? And so something I've been kind of practicing quite a bit lately to get the same kind of effect. I've been trying to do this with contrast paints lately. And actually, I've been liking the result. Okay, Keller Williams Realty. I got you. I got you. So it's a book in your profession. Darkening a crap ton of Raven Guard armor at the moment. That's awesome. Brother Archer has a really great recipe for his Raven Guard armor, where he uses like Space Wolf colors to build up highlights on black, and then darkens it all down with Basilicanum Gray. It's really good recipe. If I already didn't have 7,000 points of Space Wolves that were already painted up with black armor, then I would probably be trying to do that to mine as well. Alright, I'm going to switch away from my nice sable hair broken toed brush, because I don't know if these contrast paints do any damage to the brush, but anytime I'm doing like anything, I don't know, anything I'm unsure of, I just always switch to synthetic. I probably could do this with my sable hairs, but I'm just choosing not to. So here I'm just kind of adding kind of a skeleton horde here, starting to darken the barrel, and I'm not taking that all the way down. So these are kind of my three colors. Skeleton Horde. Next is Volupus Pink. I just like to call it Voluptuous Pink. Makes me think of nice, full, reddish lips. Started as a book for real estate agents and has since crossed genres into mainstream and personal growth. Nice. If you've not worked with contrast paints before, one of their great benefits is that they stay wet longer than traditional paints, and as such do a really nice job of blending into other contrast paints. So I'm just kind of crossing over a little bit into that skeleton horde, going a little further up the barrel. Is that reading at all? I think it's mostly being washed out by the light. There you go, you can kind of see it there. I didn't realize that glare was so bad. Dave, I want to become a master of screen tone variations. Yeah, contrast is rough on the brushes. Yeah, I always felt like that, but I didn't know if it was just me, so I tend to switch over. Knock, knock, Neo. My brother. Okay. So here is, if you are back, my brother, this is my conundrum, and I need to pick I need to pick your brain with your technological wisdom. So I am currently just on my painting setup because for some reason I could not get my feed from Zoom to carry over tonight. And so I don't have a meeting going. and I am not sure how to bring you into the stream. So the only thing I can think of, and you let me know what you think, is to start a new stream with you, mon frere. Oh, I'm sorry, I got to talking. The next contrast I like to use is Ultramarines Blue. And because I like that, you know, almost comic booky level of blueness at the end of my heat blooms, this is just a personal taste. I always mix in just a little bit of McCrag Blue into my contrast paint, which leaves it with a little bit of a brighter finish when it all dries. And just like with the last contrast paint, it's going to hold wet a little longer. That Vulpus, or as I like to say, voluptuous pink, is going to stay wet a little longer, let you blend it in a little better. But when you're doing your blending, always pull your brush towards the end of the barrel, because you don't want the thickest amount of your paint to be where you're trying to get that transition. You want to wick it away. Wick it away, wick it away, wick it away, wick it away now. I can host if you want, way ahead of you. Good, man, good. The show started just about 10 minutes late today because I was having some technical difficulties, bruh. But since you are already loading up, are you ready for me to close this one out and we can start up the next one? Found the white rabbit. Nice. Or follow the white rabbit. Alright guys, and there you go. Just using 3 contrast paints and then 1 normal paint because I just like that little bit of extra blue. Okay, cool. I like that little bit of extra blue. But yeah, I mean, it's not exactly the same blend I get using an airbrush. But I think it's pretty close. And typically at the end, I'll go back with, you know, they always recommend a wash to tie everything together. I like the contrast, or not the contrast, the Citadel Non-Oil Gloss, because it helps bring back a little of that metal and shine to my metallics here. And I'll do a wash ties everything together nicely. But I think, yeah, I think it's a pretty decent heat bloom without an airbrush. Since I had a couple people ask, how am I going to do this without an airbrush? You know, I thought I'd look into contrast as a solution. So, there you go. Something I've been experimenting with for just a little while. What I don't recommend is batch painting this effect. You can see I started with one and finished with one. That's because your blends come out better if you work while the contrast is still wet. You'll get better blends that way. So I would do them all, you know, one at a time. That's just my thoughts on it. Alright guys, so yeah, I was a little disappointed I wasn't going to be able to share like your art of the week and stuff because I had some really good submissions this week. But it's cool that Brother Freak is back and going to be able to help out with all that good stuff. Because you guys submit some really cool stuff every single week, which we really appreciate. And boom. Number 2. these go pretty quick. It's a really good benefit of doing the contrast. Okay, bale. Sweet. Guys, that is the painting side of the stream for tonight. I'm going to keep painting as I chat with my amazing brother, but because my amazing brother is back, we're going to switch over and hop into the usual Friday night live stream. So I hate to drop you all here, but I hope you will join us for the actual Friday night live chat coming up in just 2 seconds. Big loves to all of you guys, and until the next time, guys, or until, stick tuned right after this for the next stream. And until that next stream in like 2 seconds, make sure you guys stay frosty.